states and the federal government. I can tell you that because I've drawn some of them. And other state legislators are beginning to realize what their duty, what their call to duty is all about. It is to promote and to protect freedom within their states. The federal government has grown out of control in things outside of their jurisdiction. And they have become slothful in the things and operating within the things that are in their jurisdictions. Things like Obamacare, cap and trade, illegal immigration, the Federal Reserve, the North American Union, the NAFTA Superhighway, the Real ID Act. All of these are undermining the security and the freedom of not just America, but the state of Oklahoma, the state of Texas, California, wherever you come from. These kinds of unconstitutional federal policies are destroying the very fabric of America today. Have you ever wondered why our borders are not secure? Here's a newsflash for you. Our leaders don't want the border secure. That's why. And this is a bipartisan issue, folks. Under the Bush administration, the Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement, I'm sure you've heard about, the stated goal for the SPP is, quote, to eliminate the trade and security borders of North America and to allow for the free movement of goods, services, and people across U.S. borders. You remember the Real ID Act of 2005? Congress told the citizens of Oklahoma and every other state in the Union what kind of information we had to put on our Oklahoma driver's license. Things like fingerprint imaging, biometric facial recognition, the potential of retina scanning just to get a driver's license. The Real ID Act provided for the sharing of your information on an international database. Let me just share with you for a second. Congress has no authority to do such a thing. That violates the Constitution. It tramples on the First, the Fourth, and the 10th Amendment. But we've been told by the politicians not to fear. Don't worry about these things. Everything's going to be all right. We're doing this for you. You see, the government would tell us, if we know where you are, we're going to be better able to protect you. And we have been lulled into a false sense of security in America today. I don't know about you, but I just don't believe everything that government tells me. I kind of tend to lean towards the old Reagan thought. You know, government doesn't have all the answers. Government's the biggest problem that we have today in America. Well, what is the answer? You're the answer. The answer lies within us. You see, it's time that we face the enemy. And let me remind you where the enemy is today. It's in Washington, D.C. We are being attacked from within. We have been warned for decades about the moment that we're living in today. And it's our turn, folks, to cross the Delaware. It's our time to face the enemy. It's our turn to reclaim the God-given rights that have been handed to us. We must secure them once again and pass them down. And if you're like me, you get tired. Sometimes you just get worn out. Sometimes you wonder, it's just me, can I make a difference? One of our brilliant legal minds recently stated that one honest voice can be louder than the crowd. Everyone can be going off in this direction, doing the wrong thing. It just takes one person to stand up and do the right thing. By the way, that was Reese Witherspoon in Legally Blonde 2 that said that. But the message is clear to me. One honest voice can be louder than the crowd. Folks, it's going to take you, and it's going to take me to salvage the freedom that's been handed to us. It's going to take someone to draw the line in the sand. Well, we've done that here in Oklahoma. We've drawn the line. A few years ago, with the odds against us, with success out of reach, With everything working against us politically, we were starving, we were cold, we were on the other side of the Delaware, we were discouraged at what was going on in the state of Oklahoma. But we crossed the Delaware, and we began the process of nullifying unconstitutional acts perpetrated on the citizens of Oklahoma. We began reclaiming our state sovereignty by nullifying unconstitutional acts of the federal government. 3 years ago, I wrote legislation to opt out of that Real ID bill that I described a while ago. And we were told, not just told, we were threatened by Homeland Security. If this bill passes, the citizens of Oklahoma won't be able to get on an airplane. You won't be able to go into a federal building. You can't go into a federal courthouse, the post office. Life as you know it in the state of Oklahoma is over if the state of Oklahoma insists on trying to opt out of this Real ID bill. We were being told that Congress would withhold our money, our state money that we collect here in the state, and send it for some unknown reason to Washington, D.C. and ask and beg for part of it back. They said, we're not going to give it back to you. Well, folks, we were actually being blackmailed by the politicians. But we didn't bend. We didn't get scared. We drew the line in the sand, and we dared Congress to step over it. And let me tell you where Congress is today. They're still on the other side of the Delaware. We passed that bill, and you know what? Since that time, 37 other states followed suit. They have written similar legislation. They, too, have opted out, written resolutions to not comply with this unconstitutional act. Janet Napolitano stood before the cameras about 6 months ago now, and she made an amazing statement. She said the Real ID Act is dead because the states just wouldn't cooperate. I believe in capitalism, and I believe in Americanism, and those kinds of that kind of legislation violates both. This year, Obamacare is going to be on the ballot in the state of Oklahoma, another unconstitutional act perpetrated on the citizens of every state in this country. But I wrote legislation this last year to do just like we did with Real ID. Opt out. We're not going to do it. We're not going to play the unconstitutional acts by the federal government. And the citizens of Oklahoma this year will be making the decisions on their health care rather than the politicians in Washington, D.C. I think that's good for America. Folks, I'm convinced without any shadow of a doubt, if we are going to salvage what's left of our great country, it'll be done at the state level. If we're going to restore our freedom and pass it down, it will be through the nullification process. Restoring our states' rights, preventing the federal government from imposing unconstitutional acts. They're not law if they're unconstitutional, folks. It's just not. An unconstitutional act is not law, and it is absolutely void. The states are not bound to submit to that. As a matter of fact, it is the duty of the state legislature. It's the duty of the governors of the states to protect the citizens from this kind of oppressive, unconstitutional acts perpetrated on our states and on the sovereignty of the citizens. And let me take it a step further. Any legislator, any governor, any attorney general who coerce their citizens into submission to these unconstitutional acts should be removed from office immediately. I believe that nullification, getting rid of these unconstitutional acts, will save our country. It'll get us back on the right track. You see, nullification allows the citizens to enjoy the rule of law. It allows us to enjoy our country, to take advantage of everything that this great nation has to offer. Pretend laws will have to go away if the people would just stand with a stiff back and say no to unconstitutional acts. I want you to know something. We are still in control. I get excited to know that. Washington, D.C. doesn't have anything over on the state of Oklahoma. There is still a 10th Amendment. There is still a Bill of Rights. There is still a Constitution. And I want you to know that the state legislatures have more power than Congress does. Do you realize that? Congress doesn't get it. And most of the people, most of the state legislatures around this nation don't get it. But we do. I believe it's time that we show the politicians where the real balance of power comes from, and that's we the people. It is time that we stand up for what's right, to be that one voice in the crowd. These are trying times that we live in today, folks. But I believe it's our time to cross the Delaware. Let me just close by letting you know it's not too late. We're still in the game. And I believe that brighter days lie ahead for America. I truly do. 2.5 centuries ago, our founding fathers had a dream. They had a dream to birth a new nation where they could worship freely, where they could keep the fruits of their labor, and where they could live free. I want you to know that I too have a dream this morning. I have a dream that one day the children of God in this country would declare their faith once again without shame. I too have a dream that one day moms and dads would produce godly young men and women who will impact their schools, their generation, and our nation. I too have a dream that families would be restored with godly fathers who understand their responsibility to be the spiritual leader of their homes. I too have a dream that one day all life would be cherished and protected, and that America would repent of her national sin of killing the unborn. I too have a dream that America would return to the faith of our founding fathers, and churches would be filled with pastors speaking with authority on moral, spiritual, and political issues. I too have a dream that men and women who run for office would do so out of a deep-seated desire to serve other people, with a conviction of moral purity and constitutional understanding. I have a dream that one day we could say of these United States once again, "Blessed is a nation whose God is Lord." Folks, let's just not make this a dream. Let's make it a reality. Let's cross the Delaware. And as Ronald Reagan said, I appeal to your hopes, not your worst fears. I appeal to your confidence rather than your doubts. And my dream is that you will travel the road ahead with liberty's lamp guiding your steps and opportunity's arm steadying your way. This is our time. It's our duty. It is our destiny to once again secure the blessings of liberty and to hand them down to the next generation. God bless you. Stay dedicated to liberty. Thank you. Thank you.